joining me. Been having a lot of conversations just recently about the housing market, especially in Australia. I don't know what the trends are like around the rest of the world, but in Australia there's quite a dire situation for people trying to get into the housing market, not being able to afford it, and rental properties are so scarce. There's so many people trying to rent the one property and not being able to. And I was talking to young people about what it was like in the 1980s and 1990s when buying a home. And it is just so different to the way that people are doing things today. So like as I went through the experience of buying homes in the 1980s and 1990s and 2000s, but in the 1980s and 1990s, let's just say a house came on the market for $200,000. They have an open inspection, and a lot of people that were interested would go and look at the property. And then if you were interested, you'd gone to the bank and you'd got your finances sorted out, and you were interested in putting in an offer, you would put in an offer, say, for $160,000. And then the owner would come back and say, well, we'll take 190. And then you would say, well, we'll give you 170. And then they would say, well, we'll come down to 180. And then you'd meet at 175 and you would do a deal. So there was always bartering going on. And there was bartering, and there was probably, maybe 2 or 3, 4 different couples that would try for the one house, but there was always a bartering happening. And another thing was, every time a real estate agent came out to your home to look at your property, they would walk around. If you were, thinking of selling your property, putting it on the market, they would come around, do an appraisal on what they thought it was worth, and then tell you what needed fixing. Like, oh, you should repair the gutters first, or you should clean up the backyard, or maybe you should paint the walls inside. They would tell you what to do to make the place as presentable as it could be, so that you got the money that you thought it was worth. And that was sort of like the 1980s and the 1990s. 2000s was still sort of, in the early 2000s it was still like that, but somewhere along the line it changed. And the way the situation is now is, a house can be listed for, let's say it's listed for $750,000. There's no bartering anymore. Someone will go and look at the place, and then they will ring up and they say, I'll give you $820,000 for it. They go way above the price because they have to have it. They have to beat everybody else. They have to have it. And even like some people I know went through a house inspection over the Easter weekend, and the house they went through had no bathroom. The people had sort of started to renovate a bathroom and never finished it. So there was hardly any bathroom there at all. So there was, $20,000 needed spending on the bathroom. The retaining wall had collapsed, so there was another $35,000 needed spent outside. All the gutters were totally rusted and would need thousands of dollars to replace them. And yet, so the person that was looking at the house said, look, I'll only give you this certain amount for this house because there's at least another $120,000 needed to repair it. And the agent said, oh, that's okay, we've just had an offer above what the asking price is. It's like people are in such a desperate need to not miss out. That feeling, I don't want to miss out, I've got to get it. And they will pay more money than it's worth. And I felt like with all the visions that I've been getting from my guides, and when I step into future scenarios, I feel like this is where there is going to be a lot of people going to come unstuck, because they have purchased properties way above what they're actually worth. They've borrowed all that money. They didn't had to have much of a deposit. have a huge mortgage at that very low interest rate. And as the interest rates are going to rise, and they will rise, and there's just been a recent one recent event where it has risen, it'll continue to rise probably 4 more times. Now, that means that people are going to need to find around about another $1,200 to $1,300 a month to pay off their mortgages, but they don't have a pay rise. So if they don't have a pay rise, and where are they going to find this extra money to pay these huge loans that they've got on houses they're buying that still need repairs done on them? And I'm not sure what happened in this, maybe the period between 2010 to 2022. I know the internet makes us want to have instant access to information. We want to know stuff, we look it up on the internet and we expect to get it straight away. We send a text to somebody, we expect to get it straight away. We email somebody, we expect to get an answer back straight away. Everything is an expectation of it has to happen now. And I wonder if this is the cause of, I want that house, I don't want anyone else to get that house, I have to have that house, without considering the jeopardy they're putting themselves in financially for the long-term future. Because I know when we're younger, even, it doesn't even mean when we're younger, quite often we're very impulsive and we will make a decision so that we don't miss out, or without thinking of the long-term effects. When we're young, we're always indestructible. We could go out and drink all night, and how many times have you looked back and thought, my God, the things I did when I was young, I was so lucky I didn't get killed when I was doing something. Or we've all been through that. We've all done some stuff that's been so silly and so risky because we're not really thinking of the consequences when we're younger. And I think a lot of it is, like, financially, this is really going to hit home. And it worries me about how many people I feel like are going to lose their places, or that it's going to make the market drop again. I mean, the market will always go in cycles. It rises and then it plateaus or it falls a bit. Another thing that concerns me is when I see a lot of YouTube investors that are convincing people to, like, use the collateral in their house to buy another property and then rent that property out and then use that collateral, and that's their way. Because I think what happened was, years and years ago, if people put savings into their bank account, they got a really good interest rate which gave it back, or they could put it into a term deposit. And then the banks stopped giving any kind of incentive for people to save money, and because there is a natural greed within all of us to want to have more. And so the only way we can think of to have more money is to look at ways to invest money. How can I make my money grow? How can I make more money? And it can become greedy. When I see people buying lots and lots of properties purely just for the money, I'm like, are you really happy? Like, are you really happy with your life, or is this becoming an obsession with just money? And another thing that is happening a lot is, obviously, places in Sydney and Melbourne, in the bigger cities, are worth an awful lot more money than places in country towns. So, like, where I used to live, which was in a country town in South Australia, you can buy a really lovely 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, sometimes on a bit of an acreage, for about, say, $380,000. And then where I'm in the area I'm in now, if you wanted to buy the exact same thing, a house with 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms on a bit of an acreage, you're over $1 million. It's just because where I am now is closer to a city area. Where I was about 5 hours away from a city area. But what's happening is people that live in Sydney or Melbourne or in like where they've got a lot of money invested, they can sell a property for $3 million, and they go to a country town and buy 3 or 4 properties. And that's their way of, they're getting the rent, and then they're getting tax deductions because they've got rental properties. It's their way of wanting to make money and want to increase their money. But what it also does is it prevents the people that live in the country towns from getting into the real estate, because it's pushing the market up. And it's making it difficult for local people that live in a town. Even the town that I live in, it's a seaside town. It's very, like, there's about 4 little towns that are all kind of linked together, and there is so many holiday places. So people from the city areas will buy a holiday home, and it's just sitting there empty. They come for Easter weekend and they'll come for Christmas break. And the rest of the year, the house is just sitting empty. It's just not used. No one locally can buy it because it's snapped up by somebody else that just uses the place. But good luck to them if they have the money to do that. But I just always feel sad for the whole situation when I see people sleeping in their cars because they can't find a rental place, or they can't afford to get in there is no accommodation. And when you see hundreds of places just sitting there empty because the people aren't down here using them for their holiday, the sort of the empath within me finds that upsetting. That is there no kind of solution that we can come up with as a community, as people that help people, where everybody can get into their own home? Like, your home is your safe place. Your home is where you go back to, even if you don't even have a solid house and you have a motorhome, or you have a caravan, or you live in a caravan park with just a little cabin, whatever it is, that's your place. It's your little safe place, your haven. It doesn't always have to be a mansion to feel like it's your little safe place. And I would say that, 80% of people, I would think, just want to have their little safe place to return to. They don't need to have grand living. They just want their little home. So where are we going as a society? Are we just going to keep heading into this direction of, I have to have it now, I'll pay you anything to get it. It doesn't matter if I get myself in financial debt as long as I have it. Is that where we're heading as a society? Because I know I listen to other spiritual speakers. I listen to people talking about that great word they use, the collective. The collective is shifting, and the collective is changing their beliefs. But it's a small minority. It's a small minority of people that are not invested in being on this earth for reasons, for money, for greed, to have everything. There are people that are just enjoying the simple things in life and can see enjoyment in things that cost nothing. But then I also see so much of this, I need to have it now. I want to have it now. Is it kind of like is it a need to impress other people? Like, I have to have this so that I can impress other people and they're going to accept me into society because I fit into their narrative of, you have to have this, you have to have a nice house, you have to have a family, you have to have this. You can't be out of the norm. You can't do things differently because there are people not going to accept you. Is it that fear of missing out? Is that what it is? Have we created a world through the internet and through comparing each other to everything? Have we created this world where it's making our own needs make it really, really difficult for the needs of others. I mean, all of us are doing what we want. We're making choices in our life to suit ourselves without thinking of the consequences of what this could be doing to other people and also future generations. What is this creating? Like, I can't imagine if this continues down this same path, the life that my grandchildren are going to have to go through when they're in their early 20s. Are they going to be paying all, like, for the whole of their life, it'll just be a focus on, let's just pay this house off, because it's just this massive big debt, like a big noose hanging around their neck. How do you enjoy your life when your whole focus is on this massive debt that's got to be paid? And none of us were born with money. None of us came here with pockets full of money to spend on all the stuff we have to have. We're here for the experiences, for the growth of the soul. We're not even here for the stuff, and yet there is this huge focus on the stuff. So yeah, I don't know where I do know where we're heading with it, but it's a slow process, and I really feel like every time I now see a video pop up, you know, when you're about to watch a YouTube and you see an ad pop up, and I see somebody that's talking about, I will teach you how to invest in all these houses. I can teach you how to buy lots of properties and how to make money. As soon as I see them talking, I actually feel ill. Like, I feel sick, and I think, I worry, because you're helping, it's worked for you. Yeah, it's worked for you over the last few years. But you're now teaching other people how to do this, and the market's going to shift. You know, there's going to be a stock market crash. The markets are going to shift. The financial situation is going to shift. And where are you all going to be left? You're trying to create your future on what you know from the past. You're not clicking into your own instinct about where this is actually heading. And that's where I feel worry for these people, because they're financially going to be very, very stuck. And if their whole focus in life has been around money, everything they do is for the money. When they lose money, it's as a deeper hurt as a heartbreak in love. When you have your whole focus around money and what you want to buy with money and what money status holds you, you know, what you expect other people to see you as, when you lose it, that's one of the biggest tower moments that people can go through. It can hurt as much as a heartbreak. And even though you say, but it's just money, when your focus has been purely on money and nothing else, it's a killer of a thing to go through when you lose it. It's actually a shock. It's a shock to the system. And then it can create an emotional breakdown. So if you're in a situation where you're looking to buy a house, if you're in a situation where you don't have to hurry, you know, there's no hurry to get out of a place, or there's no hurry to buy, I feel like you should just wait, especially to the later part of this year, where you'll start to see where the interest rates have gone up again. And just go with your instinct. Like, does this feel like the right time, or should we just wait? Because, like in my situation, buying a house in the 80s, interest rates were 17%. We bought our very first home, although houses weren't nowhere near the price they are today. Our first home loan was at 17%, because that's the way it was set up at that time. And we couldn't afford, we never went out for dinner. We had a family, we had children. We never went out for dinner. We never went on holidays. We never had takeaway. We budgeted frugally, but we were happy. We made our lives happy by spending time together. We were outside flying kites. We were doing things as a family, and we did them free. We didn't have to pay for happiness. And we still had a really good life, even though the interest rates were extremely high. So I know somewhere along the line we've just got a little bit lost as a people in coming back into being who we are and enjoying who we are and the simple things in life, and just being happy without having to live our life impressing other people. So I don't know what your situation is, what part of the world you live in, and the difficulties, and what you think yourself is going to unfold with the housing market. And I saw somebody the other day. He's not a psychic or anything. He was just an investor guy, and he was saying, "Oh, it's going to boom. Like, the real estate is just going to boom. It's going to get higher and higher and higher." And my guys were telling me, "No, it's going to get lower, and there's going to be a crash, and people are not going to be able to afford to pay off their mortgages." So my instinct and what my messages were contradicting what he was doing. He's somebody who watches the market. That's his thing. He's an analyst in that area. But I was just getting something totally different. So I'd love for you to share your thoughts on this whole obsession that we have with money and possessions, and that fear of missing out on things and having to have it right now. Is it creating more problem than it's worth? So thank you again for listening to me, and drop a comment below if you'd like to talk about this subject. Thank you.